The first question that comes to mind is, how is big data going to help Factorial Plus? Well, first we start off with what exactly is big data. Kimball and Ross stated that big data is structured, semi-structured, unstructured, and raw data in many different formats, in some cases looking totally different than the clean scalar numbers and text you have stored in your data warehouse for the last 30 years. Well, using this extra sources of data will get better analysis and find insight into future decisions up the road that could really help and benefit. But at the same time, there are some challenges that could come across. A few of the challenges would be that you have to keep up with the rapid volume that's constantly coming from the large sums of data, thus big data. And storing this can be difficult. The next thing is coming and curating the data is a time-consuming task. Data scientists spend 50 to 80% of their time curating and preparing data before it can actually be used, according to Oracle. And then finally, data technology is always changing, so you got to keep fast pace up with it at all times and never stop. So once you commit to big data, you got to be all in, or you'll lose a little bit. And here's a little roadmap showing exactly how implementation would take place. There are two types of big data warehouses structures that are commonly used and probably best adapted for that. There's RDBMS and MapReduce/Hadoop. Both of these, as you can see, have plenty of things that separate them and things that show off the positives and the negatives to both of these approaches, where the RDBMS is proprietary because you have an already database that you're usually using, you're trying to expand and make it useful with the big data to be coming in with it, but where that can be expensive. But the data is going to be a lot more structured and you can recall it quicker. Whereas the MapReduce Hadoop is open source, so the changes and updates to it are being done by countless supporters for this at all times, thus making it less expensive because you don't own any money to them. The only issue is you're going to have to structure everything yourself and you're going to have to do a lot more little work with it to make sure it still does the same things that as having the RDBMS would have provided. Both of these options are great, and the best one would be whatever one's set up best for your company in mind. But the main thing to think about, of course, is how much is it worth. The best practices for the big data, the main thing to keep in mind for Factorial Plus mainly is that it benefits the company the most, or whereas you keep a business goals in mind when you're going with the data. You have to align all the data properly in the way where it is angled with each other from where you're bringing it in, where you're connecting it to within the database. You have to focus on the quality of the data, ensuring that you're getting the best stuff, you're not getting anything that's not out of the ordinary, you're getting clean data to ensure the accuracy remains high. And then the last is to set up you gotta make sure in mind you're setting these up for quality analytics. You get the focus on the quality, you have the stuff aligned for a business, and this all leads into creating the best analysis and then the best reports that come from the analysis for the best options to be available to you in your business. When it comes to data governance and data integrity, there's a few things to make sure you keep in mind. In data governance, you need to, at a minimum, data governance embraces privacy, security, compliance, data quality, metadata management, master data management, and business glossary that exposes definitions and context to the business community. This was stated by Kimball and Ross. The key point to remember is that the big data does not actually have governance initially. You have to make sure you put these things in with it as you're bringing it in. And after that, you got to make sure you keep personal data personal, or you keep it out, you mask it, you make sure it doesn't get out into the open worlds because you're trying to protect those things, and keeping those things as part of data integrity. You're keeping it validity and accuracy of the data at the highest level, because without doing that, you're going to have lessened areas on both from your reportings are going to be not as great because their accuracy will be down, and you run into possibly running out of more inconsistencies. But you want to maintain everything being consistent. If you get everyone on board with the same methods for doing everything, that's how you keep things consistent. One of the things that'll really set up Factorial Plus to being able to use its big data even better is by setting up Kimball's dimensional model in its data warehouses. The Focus for these is you're going to try to help keep the organization that are structured and utilized for the BI is make it easy as possible. By making all these centralized tables from what you want to be measured, and then you take all of the other data and you separate them into their own dimensional tables so that you can reference them properly within for your analysis, and then it makes it set up real easy for when you're trying to get all your data, you're trying to line up and keep the quality and integrity in the same. And doing this makes everything faster, quicker, more accurate, and better for all, and does a really good job for keeping your database and you're looking up everything better. And that is the ways we're going to use big data to make Factorial Plus better.